Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Speak and Feel English podcast, a place where we talk about personal growth, communication, mindset, and everything that helps you become the best version of yourself. I'm Mia, and today I'm joined by Ethan. In today's episode, we are discussing something that almost everyone struggles with at some point in their life, and that is confidence. More specifically, we're talking about how to build unstoppable confidence that stays strong even when life becomes difficult.
Thank you, Mia. I am really excited about today's conversation because confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe confidence is something you are either born with or without. They look at confident individuals and assume those people simply have a special personality. However, the truth is that confidence is not something fixed. It is something that can be developed step by step, through experience, mindset, and consistent actions.
That is such an important point. I think many people spend years believing they are just not confident, and because of that belief, they avoid opportunities that could actually help them grow. They might avoid speaking in meetings, sharing their ideas, trying something new, or even expressing their true opinions. Over time, this avoidance slowly reinforces the belief that they are incapable.
Exactly. Confidence grows through action, not through waiting. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they must feel confident before they take action. In reality, it works the opposite way. You take action first, even when you feel uncertain, and confidence gradually develops as your brain collects evidence that you are capable of handling situations.
I love the way you explain that because it removes a lot of pressure. People often imagine confident individuals as people who never feel fear or doubt. But in reality, confident people feel fear just like everyone else. The difference is that they do not allow that fear to stop them from moving forward.
That is absolutely correct. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move forward despite fear. Think about any skill someone develops. When someone first learns to drive, speak publicly, or start a new career, they naturally feel nervous and uncertain. But with repetition and experience, the brain becomes familiar with the situation, and the fear slowly decreases.
And something else happens as well. When people begin taking small, courageous actions, they start building trust in themselves. That internal trust becomes the foundation of real confidence. Instead of constantly seeking approval from others, they start believing in their own abilities and judgment.
That internal trust is incredibly powerful. When someone trusts themselves, they are not easily shaken by criticism, temporary failure, or difficult circumstances. They understand that mistakes are part of growth, rather than proof of inadequacy.
Ethan, if someone wants to start building confidence, what do you think is the very first step they should take?
In my opinion, the first step is changing the way we talk to ourselves. Many people have a very critical inner voice that constantly reminds them of their weaknesses, mistakes, and limitations. When that negative voice becomes dominant, it slowly damages self-belief.
That is very true. People often do not realize how powerful their internal dialogue is. If someone repeatedly tells themselves that they are not good enough, not intelligent enough, or not capable enough, their brain begins accepting those statements as facts.
Exactly. The brain tends to believe the thoughts it hears most frequently. That is why confident people are very careful about how they speak to themselves internally. They may acknowledge their mistakes, but they do not use those mistakes as evidence that they are worthless or incapable.
So instead of harsh self-criticism, they practice constructive reflection. They might think, I made a mistake, but I can learn from it and improve next time. That shift may sound simple, but it changes the entire emotional experience.
Another important factor is keeping promises to yourself. Confidence grows when you prove to yourself that your words have value. For example, if someone decides they will wake up early, practice a skill, or complete a task, following through on that promise strengthens their self-trust.
I completely agree. Many people underestimate the power of small commitments. When someone repeatedly breaks promises to themselves, they subconsciously begin believing that their intentions do not matter. But when they consistently follow through, even on small tasks, they build a sense of reliability within themselves.
And over time, that reliability transforms into confidence. The person begins thinking, if I decide to do something, I know I can follow through. That belief becomes incredibly empowering.
There is also another element that contributes to confidence, and that is preparation. Many people feel insecure simply because they are not prepared for the situations they face.
That is a great point. Preparation reduces uncertainty. When someone studies their field, practices their skills, and prepares for challenges, they naturally feel more capable. Confidence often comes from competence.
So in many ways, confidence is built through daily habits rather than sudden transformation. It is the result of consistent effort, positive self-talk, and the willingness to improve step by step. Another challenge people face when building confidence is the fear of judgment. Many individuals hesitate to express themselves because they are worried about what others might think.
Yes, fear of judgment can be extremely limiting, but one powerful realization can change everything. Most people are far more focused on their own lives and concerns than on evaluating someone else's actions.
That is very true. Sometimes we imagine that everyone is carefully analyzing our behavior, when in reality, people are usually thinking about their own problems, goals, and responsibilities.
Exactly. Once people understand this, they often feel a sense of freedom. They realize they do not need universal approval in order to live confidently.
Another important lesson is accepting imperfection. Perfectionism often destroys confidence because it creates unrealistic expectations. When someone believes every action must be flawless, they become afraid to try anything new.
That is a great observation. Growth requires experimentation, and experimentation naturally includes mistakes. Confident individuals understand that failure is simply feedback rather than a final judgment about their abilities.
And that mindset allows them to take risks that others avoid. Over time, those experiences give them valuable knowledge and skills that further strengthen their confidence.
Yes, and something interesting happens when someone repeatedly faces challenges. Situations that once felt terrifying begin to feel normal. The brain adapts to experiences, and what once seemed impossible becomes manageable.
So confidence expands as our comfort zone expands. Each time we step slightly beyond our current limits, we increase our sense of capability.
Exactly. And the key word there is slightly. Confidence does not require dramatic leaps. It grows through small, consistent expansions of what we are willing to attempt.
Another dimension of confidence that people often overlook is how we respond to setbacks and unexpected challenges. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how prepared or motivated someone may be, difficulties are inevitable. What truly separates confident individuals from those who struggle with self-doubt is not the absence of failure, but the ability to recover from it with resilience and perspective.
I completely agree with that. Many people assume confident individuals rarely experience setbacks, but that is far from reality. In fact, confident people often experience just as many failures as anyone else. The difference lies in the way they interpret those experiences. Instead of seeing a setback as evidence that they are incapable, they treat it as information that can help them improve.
That interpretation is extremely powerful because it transforms failure from something discouraging into something educational. When someone believes every mistake is a learning opportunity, they stop fearing mistakes. And when the fear of mistakes disappears, people become far more willing to take meaningful risks.
Exactly. Risk-taking is an essential ingredient in building confidence. When individuals allow themselves to experiment, try new approaches, and occasionally fail, they begin collecting valuable experiences. Each experience strengthens their understanding of what works and what does not.
And that process gradually creates emotional resilience. Someone who has faced challenges repeatedly begins to realize that setbacks are temporary. They understand that disappointment may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it does not define their long-term potential.
Another important factor related to confidence is emotional self-control. Confident individuals are not controlled by every negative emotion they experience. They recognize that feelings like fear, embarrassment, or frustration are natural, but they do not allow those emotions to dictate their decisions.
That is such a valuable skill. When someone learns to observe their emotions instead of reacting immediately, they create space to make thoughtful choices. For example, someone may feel nervous before presenting an idea or sharing an opinion, But instead of avoiding the situation, they acknowledge the nervousness and move forward anyway.
And each time they do that, the brain learns something very important. It learns that uncomfortable emotions are not dangerous. Over time, this realization significantly reduces anxiety and strengthens confidence.
I also think the environment we surround ourselves with has a tremendous influence on confidence. The people we interact with regularly shape our beliefs, our attitudes, and our expectations about what is possible.
That is absolutely true. If someone constantly spends time with individuals who are negative, critical, or discouraging, it becomes much harder to maintain a strong belief in oneself. Negative environments often reinforce self-doubt.
On the other hand, supportive environments encourage growth. When people feel respected, encouraged, and understood, they are far more willing to take risks and express their authentic ideas.
Exactly. Positive environments create psychological safety. When individuals know they will not be harshly judged for every mistake, they feel comfortable exploring their potential.
Confidence also grows when we focus on progress instead of perfection. Many people become discouraged because they expect immediate transformation, but real confidence develops gradually over time.
Yes, and celebrating small improvements is incredibly important. When people acknowledge their progress, no matter how small, they reinforce the belief that growth is happening.
And that belief fuels motivation. When someone sees evidence of improvement, they feel encouraged to continue developing their skills and pushing their boundaries.
So, if someone wants to strengthen their confidence, they should remember that resilience, emotional awareness, supportive environments, and consistent progress all play essential roles in the process.
Confidence is not built in a single moment. It is built through many experiences that gradually reshape how we see ourselves and what we believe we are capable of achieving.
As we move toward the end of today's discussion, I think it is helpful to reflect on the deeper meaning of confidence. Throughout our conversation, we have explored many different elements that contribute to building unstoppable confidence, and what becomes clear is that confidence is not simply a personality trait. It is a skill that develops through intentional effort and thoughtful self-development.
That is a very important idea. When people begin to understand that confidence can be built like any other skill, they stop viewing it as something distant or unattainable. Instead, they start seeing it as something they can cultivate step by step through their daily choices and actions.
One of the most powerful steps we discussed was improving the way we speak to ourselves internally. Our thoughts shape our perception of reality, and when our internal voice becomes more supportive and constructive, our sense of self-belief naturally becomes stronger.
Yes, and alongside that internal dialogue comes the importance of keeping promises to ourselves. Every time we follow through on a commitment, whether it is practicing a skill, completing a task, or simply staying disciplined with our routines, we strengthen our trust in ourselves.
And that self-trust becomes the foundation of real confidence. When someone knows they can rely on themselves, they are less dependent on external approval or validation.
We also talked about preparation and competence. Confidence often grows when people invest time in developing their knowledge and abilities. The more prepared someone feels, the more comfortable they become in challenging situations.
Another powerful idea we explored was expanding our comfort zones gradually. Confidence grows when we consistently take small steps beyond our familiar boundaries. Each new experience sends a message to our brain that we are capable of handling more than we previously believed.
And of course, resilience plays a major role. Setbacks are unavoidable, but they do not have to destroy confidence. When individuals learn to view obstacles as temporary and educational, they develop a much stronger and more stable sense of self-belief.
I think that is one of the most inspiring aspects of confidence. It does not require perfection, extraordinary talent, or constant success. Instead, it requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to continue growing even when the journey becomes difficult.
Exactly. True confidence is not loud or arrogant. It is quiet, steady, and grounded in the belief that you can adapt, learn, and improve, no matter what challenges appear.
And when someone develops that kind of confidence, it changes the way they approach life. They become more willing to pursue meaningful goals, share their ideas openly, and explore opportunities that once seemed intimidating.
It also creates a sense of freedom. When people stop being controlled by fear of judgment or fear of failure, they gain the freedom to express their authentic selves and pursue what truly matters to them.
So, if you are listening today and you sometimes struggle with self-doubt, remember that confidence is not something you need to wait for. It is something you can start building right now through small decisions, consistent effort, and a healthier relationship with yourself.
Every action you take toward growth strengthens the foundation of your confidence. Over time, those small actions accumulate, and the transformation becomes remarkable.
Thank you for spending this time with us and being part of today's conversation on the Speak and Feel English podcast.
We truly appreciate your time and attention.
And if you enjoyed this episode and want to continue improving your communication, mindset, and confidence, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more podcasts and future conversations.
We look forward to sharing more meaningful discussions with you soon.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself.